Liberal Viewer present.
So earlier this month, when the Bush administration bamboozled the Democratic Congress into granting the U.S. government sweeping new spying powers, I couldn't help but notice the Fox News misinformation campaign that helped seal the deal. Fox began this campaign by misinforming its viewers about the rights they had before the law was changed. As you can see in a Fox News story from August 3rd, the day before the Democratic Congress amended the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA. In this story, Fox falsely claims the old FISA law never required a warrant from a judge to listen in on conversations between Americans and those outside the United States, as you can see right here.
Under the law, warrants must be obtained under FISA when someone in the U.S. is targeted for surveillance, but the law has never required warrants to eavesdrop on foreigners, even those who call the U.S.
Now, it was false for Fox to claim the law has never required warrants to eavesdrop on foreigners, because as you can see at a link in the video description, the actual old FISA law required a warrant to listen to, quote, the contents of any wired communication to or from a person in the United States if such acquisition occurs in the United States, unquote. So the old law did require a warrant to listen in on the foreign calls and emails of Americans, except when the eavesdropping was taking place outside the United States. To put it simply, under the old law, American spies working outside the United States didn't need to get warrants from U.S. judges because they were spying outside the United States. But spying inside the United States always required getting a warrant from a judge based on evidence of some wrongdoing. But now, under the new law, to which I've also provided a link in the video description, the government can just go to American phone companies, American email providers, or even YouTube, and demand to eavesdrop on all communications so long as they fit a very broad definition of, quote, foreign intelligence information, unquote, and so long as it, quote, concerns persons reasonably believed to be located outside the United States, unquote. But from watching Fox News, you'd never know about this huge expansion of U.S. government power to use wiretaps and warrantless subpoenas inside the United States to listen in on all the email and phone conversations Americans have with those outside the United States. Instead, Fox continued to mislead its viewers that the new law follows the spirit of the old law, while also implying the new law only applies to suspected terrorists, as you can see in this August 6th story that just happens to use Detroit, a city with a high Muslim population, in this dishonest illustration.
In fact, that is what the original 1978 law intended. If U.S. intelligence is targeting a terrorist in Pakistan for eavesdropping, the law did not require a warrant. If the terrorist called someone in Detroit, for instance, the U.S. could listen to that end as well, but the moment officials decide to target the U.S. person, a warrant must be obtained.
So, despite using the word terrorist to describe the target of this new law, Fox never tells its viewers the Bush administration rejected legal language that would have limited the law's application to cases of suspected terrorism. In fact, to find out the new law applies to more than just terrorists, a Fox viewer would have to change channels to the August 7th parody of a conservative pundit on Comedy Central right here.
President Bush signed into law a bill passed by Congress that allows him to monitor the emails and international phone calls of U.S. citizens without a warrant, even citizens not suspected of having terrorist ties. I believe there are 3 of those left: Alberto Gonzalez, Toby Keith, and my dog Gipper.
Now, luckily for those of us beyond Alberto Gonzalez, Toby Keith, and Stephen Colbert's dog Gipper, the American Civil Liberties Union has taken on the task of educating Americans about how Democrats and Republicans have joined together to sell out some of their basic privacy rights. But, in what may be the worst of its coverage, Fox News took the ACLU's nonpartisan stance of criticizing both sides and covered it as an attack on Democrats, and continued to cover up the sweeping scope of the government's new spying powers, as you can see in this clip from August 19th, describing the ACLU's new ad campaign.
The ad depicts Pelosi and Reid as sheep and says they have caved in to yet another Bush assault on their freedoms. That's a quote. It says the revised Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, quote, gives new powers to the Attorney General and new eavesdropping powers to the government without meaningful court or congressional oversight. It concludes, we don't need sheep protecting the Bill of Rights. The FISA revision authorizes surveillance on suspected foreign terrorists believed to be outside the U.S.
There. You hear Fox News for yourself, correcting accurate information from the ACLU with a repeat of their misinformation campaign? So what do you think? Will Fox News be successful in spinning as a minor revision in the law this huge expansion of U.S. government power to gather up all email and phone conversations Americans have with those outside the United States? And I hate to even ask the second question, but do the American people even care about this huge expansion of warrantless wiretaps and subpoenas inside the United States to gather up every email and phone conversation that, quote, concerns persons reasonably believed to be located outside the United States, unquote?
YouTube, you decide.